Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap. I hope all of you guys are having a wonderful day. My day has been pretty all right. Today is June 12th. It is Thursday, and this is your nightly news podcast on all the news throughout the day that, I come across, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician after I graduate college. Hope all of you guys are doing well on this wonderful Thursday. It's been an interesting one throughout the day. So let's get right into the news recap. The first topic we have today is Trump is set to cave for ICE raids and ICE raids at farms and hotels. In a wild statement undermining he's I can't speak. In a wild statement undermining his deportation policy, Trump acknowledged that the deportations were hurting businesses and said changes are coming. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote, our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals are allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open border policy and are applying for jobs, those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but to get the criminals out of the USA, changes are coming. First of all, Biden didn't have an open border policy. It's very well known that Biden had a very conservative border policy and even continued to build Trump's wall. But let's step back on that one. Wait a second, this sounds really familiar. I said this yesterday. Who in the Trump administration is watching my videos? I mean, show yourself. Let me know. Shoot me an email. FadeJamesNews at email or FadeJamesNews at gmail.com, Hit me up. I'd love to have a chat. But on a more serious note, we're so screwed. As mentioned on multiple occasions, I am a farmer, born and raised. I have raised pigs. My family grows walnuts. So many other things, and I've had the opportunity to work with migrants, many great migrants in the fields. It's been a gift, truly. And it's unfortunate that so many people who do those jobs make very little money and are attacked day after day. Many of the people who are working in those fields are a lot smarter than you'd think. Truly, they are very smart. And let's be real, there are very few people who are like me that are willing to go, work in those fields and work to pick your fruits and vegetables and all those things like that. Farm hands need higher wages. We need to protect them and help them get on faster tracks to become citizens. And most importantly, we should support and protect those who harvest our crops, not attack and berate them. Nobody, your average American is not going to go stand in a strawberry field for hours picking strawberries. They're not. Like, realistically, they are not going to do that. And the fact that we continue to attack the very people who are willing to do that is sick. It's disgusting, and it needs to stop. Farm workers need to be paid more, a lot more. They are, underpaid so much because they aren't citizens, and it's disgusting. So hopefully, not only can we stop the unjust and the deportations, but can we, build better services and better opportunities for the people who pick our fruits and vegetables and put foods on our tables. Because, it's not okay the way that they are treated. Moving right on into something similar, Trump is targeting employers in the next phase of immigration enforcement. The Trump administration is preparing to ramp up prosecutions of companies that employ workers without legal status, according to border czar Tom Homan. Homan said worksite enforcement operations are going to massively expand. Homan confirmed the fears of farmers and other employers that they would be prosecuted for hiring non-citizens, which would destroy their workforce. Homan said, "They're coming here for a better life and a job, and I get that. The more you remove those magnets, the less people are going to come. If they can't get a job, most of them aren't going to come." Look, I'm not going to say he's wrong. If jobs aren't there, people aren't going to come. But, who do they expect to do them? People aren't going to. Do they expect children to do them? Honestly, probably. But, we're not gonna go into that just yet. That's a whole nother story. The fact is, the white man is not going to pick your fruits and vegetables. He is going to sit in his cushy office job or whatever it may be and go to the store and buy them after he's done at work. Maybe, people in this country could learn a thing or two if they went out into those fields and were the ones picking those vegetables and those long shifts. That is terrible on the back. Genuinely speaking from experience, it hurts your back to go out there and bend over to each individual plant. Or, my experience with walnuts, in the summers, I would go around and sucker trees. I would spend hours each day cutting the little suckers off the trees with, shears. And it hurts. Not only is it physical, like hard physical labor, a lot harder than you'd think, but I mean, it takes a long time. It takes days. Like, one block of trees took me by myself around 2 days to do, and we have or had now we've sold a lot of property in the recent years, but we had around 4 or 5 blocks of trees, and it took me about 2 weeks to sucker each block of trees. It was a long time, and it was in the summer. It was hot, so not only are people going through the heat, but they're doing harsh manual labor. I mean, these are hard jobs, and people are treated horribly that do them. It's not okay. So people definitely could learn a thing or two if they were the ones in their fields. Maybe instead of being racist and bigots, they'd be understanding of why we need immigrants in this country. So if we're going to deport all the people who work in those fields, I vote we send Trump and the rest of MAGA to do those jobs instead. Let's see how they like picking strawberries in over 100-degree heat. Let's see how much they complain when they aren't paid high enough wages. It's sick how these people are treated, and maybe MAGA needs to see that as well. Moving on, Trump has warned of a massive conflict in the Middle East. Trump has warned of the possibility of a massive conflict in the Middle East that could take place soon. U.S. officials are becoming increasingly concerned over the risk of Israel striking Iran and the possibility of Iran ramping up its nuclear weapons. Trump said, "I don't want to say it's imminent, but something that could very well happen." This all comes after Trump pulled all non-necessary U.S. citizens from foreign embassies in the Middle East. Great. Let me guess we're backing Israel on this one too. Israel is the source of the conflict. I've said that time and time again. They shouldn't be supported. They continue to kill using American weapons, and it's disgusting. We need to stop backing a nation that colonizes and commits genocide against the people who were there before him, because it's not okay. Just as we need to stop ruining native populations because they were here before us. It's unjust and needs to end. It's disgusting and gross, and truly not okay. It really isn't. Moving on, more troops are in LA than both Syria and Iraq. Trump's deployment of the National Guard troops and Marines to LA have reached a higher number than the troops in both Syria and Iraq combined. Roughly 4,700 troops have been deployed to LA. Meanwhile, 4,500 troops are currently being deployed in Syria and Iraq. According to a report from ABC News, the Pentagon is considering increasing the number of National Guard troops to help immigration raids by more than 20,000. Which would cost $3.6 billion in taxpayer dollars and would be half of the troops currently in the Middle East. What a stat, truly. Isn't that crazy? I mean, they want to up that number too. What a joke. The waste of taxpayer money in this country during this administration needs to end, especially when it's being used against our own people. This is a country about we the people and not the president and his goons. And, the continued attack on the American people in Los Angeles needs to end. It's disgusting. Just like everything else this administration does. Moving right on into some more terrifying news, a California senator has been arrested. Senator Alex Padilla from California was arrested after trying to ask Kristi Noem some questions. Senator Alex Padilla, a Democrat from California, was forcibly removed from an LA conference or a conference held in LA by Kristi Noem. Padilla said to Noem, "I am Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary," which prompted several men to push him out of the room, detain the senator, When speaking to reporters later, Padilla said that he received a briefing from officials and that when he learned that Nome was in the building and decided to join her briefing. He said, I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question, so I began to ask the question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground and I was handcuffed. He would add, if this is how the administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they are doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. This video was terrifying to watch. Just like that, as soon as Padilla started to speak, he was dragged out of the room. No, you mean like holy English. What country are we living in? Because this does not sound like the United States. We mustn't allow for the people who are actively trying to defend our rights and our livelihoods as citizens to be attacked. The French had a great way of dealing with oligarchs and corrupt leaders. So I say we take some notes and gather in the town square to watch justice be served. Moving on, the Department of Security says Padilla didn't identify himself, but he did. In a statement from the Department of Department of Homeland Security on Senator Alex Padilla getting detained, the agency claimed that he didn't comply or identify himself. The statement reads, Senator Padilla chose to be disrespectful to political theater and interrupt the live press conference without identifying himself or having his state or Senate security pin on as he lunged towards Secretary Nome. Mr. Padilla was told repeatedly to step away, and he did not, or back away, and he did not comply with the officer's repeated commands. This is not the case, as of course, as Rapida did in fact identify himself. It was the first thing he said. Is my name is Senator Alex Padilla. Rather than lunging at Kristi Noem, he was lunged at by said security. The first thing Senator Padilla did was identify himself. I just said that, but this was a blatant lie to the American people, and there's video proof of it. You can go see it on the internet. Go watch the TikTok. There's millions of videos, probably not millions, but hundreds of videos probably posted at this point. They shouldn't be allowed to get away with this, especially Kristi Noem. She is so unqualified for her position. I mean, wasn't it the other day? Shoot, I'm blanking on what I was going to say here. I should have wrote it down. She said something, and it was like bizarre, and it was like, "How are you doing your job?" I remember commenting on that, and I was like dumbfounded on it. But I'm blanking from the exact situation now. But truly, she shouldn't be in that position. She should be removed. What are we doing? Trump doesn't have better people he could hire at the very least. But anyways, moving on, Speaker Johnson has called for Padilla's censure. House Speaker Mike Johnson has said that Senator Alex Padilla should be censored after he tried to ask the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem a question. When pressed if Padilla should face consequences, he said, "It's not my decision to make. I'm not in that chamber. I think that the behavior at the minimum rises to a level of censure. I think there needs to be a message sent by the body as a whole that we're not going to do that. We're going to act." That is like the actual reading. It says that is not what we're going to do. That's not what we're going to act. That is what he actually said. We're not going to have branches physically fighting and having senators charging cabinet secretaries. I hate this guy. He's up there with Nancy Mace for me, and you guys know how much I don't like Nancy Mace. I genuinely despise both her and him. He has to be one of the worst speakers in recent memory, and I know we've had some bad recalled speakers, but he needs to be recalled as well, truthfully. All he does is suck off Trump and give the administration what they want. I truly can't wait to see his downfall. Him and Nancy Mace both. Those are probably the two people I hate the most throughout this entire MAGA movement. Him and Nancy Mace both are not only ugly, but so annoying. I see them on my TikTok all the time, and every time I see them, it's just like, bleh. That's how I feel. Bleh. That hurt my throat. I shouldn't have done that. But, I've been very clear, especially with Nancy Mace. I do not like that bitch and I will say bitch because she is a bitch. Um, especially with how many times she has been transphobic on multiple occasions. There are multiple videos of there on the internet of her going tranny, 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 and man, boy, if I could meet with her face to face, I would have some choice words to say. Especially as a member of the LGBTQ community, I have not been very clear about what member of the LGBTQ community I am. But I think it's very obvious if you wanted to take a guess, especially with my appearance. So I'm not going to confirm it, but um, it's a little obvious, a little bit. Especially with what groups I tend to support most. But I'm not going to confirm or deny anything, especially with this administration. And truthfully, at this point in time, it's really none of your guys' business, respectfully. But fuck that bitch. Truly, I I hope. I hope she is one of the ones who gets the most repercussions, Nancy Mace. I know this wasn't about Nancy Mace, but I'm going to go off on a tangent because that's how much I hate that woman. Man, I hope she gets some of the most repercussions out of all of these people throughout this entire, movement. Because fuck, I hate that woman, truly. Moving on to our other news segment, the final segment for today. An ad has surfaced offering to pay people to attend Trump's military parade. A Craigslist ad has surfaced asking for seat fillers to attend Trump's military parade on Saturday. The ad asks for people to come so it looks like a full crowd and use the phrase maximum perception control. It offers to pay $1,000 in an unnamed cryptocurrency to people who show up. The ad came from the company Fight 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 LLC, which owns a lot of Trump cryptocurrency. The ad even asked for people of color and ethnic groups to be placed prominently on screen so that VIPs and cameras could see diversity in the crowd. This ad could be fake. It does use images from a Russian military parade and, doesn't offer a contact number. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it was real. Honestly, I haven't given too much thought about, the crowd for this parade as much. But, that is definitely an interesting thing to think about. What do you guys think? This is like an actual question, so drop a comment down below on what you guys think. Do you guys think it'll be a full or sparse crowd? I'm thinking sparse, as DC tends to be, a more liberal area, as well as the surrounding populations, especially with a majority of people likely going to protest said parade. But it'll definitely be interesting to see. Honestly, I might watch the parade on TV, just because I want to, I report on the news, and it's probably smart for me to do so. But I'm not too sure at what time it is. I need to figure out when that happens. But I would be interested in doing so. So maybe I will watch the broadcast on television when it happens this weekend, just because I'm interested in what's happening, and I think Saturday, I believe the 14th, is going to be an interesting day, to say the least. Moving on to that's our final topic. Wow, this was a fast one. Moving on into our final topic tonight, we have some really unfortunate news as a plane with 242 people has crashed in India. An Air India passenger plane heading to London with 242 people on board crashed into a medical college during takeoff on Thursday in the city of Ahmedabad. I think it's Ahmedabad. I'm sorry for pronouncing that horribly, but a single passenger survived, according to senior officials, but the airline says there were no survivors. The plane used was a 12-year-old Boeing 787, and it was the first deadly crash of that plane type in over 16 years. This is truly a huge tragedy, and it's really saddening to hear. My condolences to the family of everyone who passed in this horrid accident. It's always unfortunate to see or hear people dying, especially at such a large number. I hope there will be a nice memorial and service to remember these lost individuals, as nobody deserves to lose their lives, especially in a plane crash. That is definitely for sure. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video. 20-minute one again. I think these videos are just going to end up shaping out to 20 minutes going forward. So expect the longer, but hopefully you guys don't mind. you know. But hope all you guys enjoyed this episode. It's been an interesting day, that's for sure, especially with a California senator being detained, and everything going on in LA as a whole. But don't forget that Elon Musk did say Trump is in the Epstein files. Don't let him forget that. Because I believe even Alex Padilla was one of the senators. I might be wrong on that one, but I think so, that he was one of the senators actively working to have the Epstein files released after Elon Musk said what he said. Maybe I'm wrong about that one. Not too quite sure, but I think he was. Maybe. Someone corrects me on that. I'm like 90% sure though. But yeah, outside of that, hope you all enjoyed watching this video. Not too much for me to really yap about too much, but yeah, hope everyone is doing well. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you're on YouTube, please consider dropping a like, dropping a comment down below. Truly do appreciate all of your guys' takes. Keep the comments rolling in. I love seeing them. I really appreciate it. Especially learning from you guys. I've been corrected on a few occasions now for making a mistake in these videos, and I truly do appreciate it. I'm not a perfect person, but I do enjoy learning, and having you guys correct those mistakes that I may have made, because as said, not a perfect person. Everyone makes mistakes, but I do enjoy hearing your guys' takes and your guys' opinions on these topics. Also, consider dropping a subscribe if you're on YouTube. We're on our way to 500 subscribers. I'd love to get there by the end of the summer, hopefully, but I don't think that'll be the case. It's been a dream of mine forever, since I was a little kid to have a YouTube play button one day. So hopefully we can see that glorious number of 10,000 subscribers and get that YouTube play button. But that's definitely a long way out. If you're on Substack, please consider pledging your support. All funds go to me. They help me pay for the things that I'll need to pay for when I'm going to college shortly. I'm going to college in August. Really appreciate it. If not, you can always subscribe for free. I truly do appreciate all forms of support on this content. It means the world to me. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you all so much. But yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow in tomorrow's episode.